the confusion between effort and speed, trying versus doing or being. Many times in our life, we start trying and it gets clunky. We're really struggling with decision making. We're really struggling with communication because we're trying so hard.
It's time to get inside your own head. Begin with the psychology behind your behaviors. Infuse it with an acute understanding of self-awareness, emotion, storytelling, body language, and more. Then look at it all through the lens of the latest neuroscience research, broken down to its most digestible form. And you've arrived. Enhanced messaging, deeper connection, heightened influence, and a greater impact on the world. Welcome to the Amplify Podcast with René Rodriguez.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the Amplify Podcast. And today we're going to be taking a very different approach to looking at learning, leadership, growth. And we're going to be doing that through the eyes of the one and only Virgil Herring. Now, I want to read to you Virgil's bio because this is an arena that I have a lot of respect for, and also one that I think is really a fascinating sport, which is the sport of golf. So I want to tell you about Virgil. So Virgil is a TEDx speaker, public speaker, and on elite performance on the golf course and also in the boardroom. He's an award-winning PGA professional that has coached 2 PGA winners, 6 national champions, and has helped over 250 golfers earn over $11 million in scholarships. Now, he's also a former Golf Channel Academy teacher. That's kind of cool. He's on the Golf Channel. And current golf analyst for WTVF CBS in Nashville. He also has extensive TV experience to go with 17 years of radio experience in Nashville. He's a 3-time best-selling author and host of 2 podcasts, On the Verge and Elevated, and has spoken and consulted to many businesses across the country. So there's a lot more to it than this, but we're going to get into the work that he's done with Dave Meltzer, PGA of America, Callaway, Infinity, Hospitality, Grove Park Construction, and the list goes on and on. So with that, Virgil, it's great to have you here, my friend.
René, thank you for having me on your podcast, man. I'm super excited to be on Amplify.
Me too, man, because I remember we met through Dave Meltzer, the amazing friend and coach and just all overall human Dave Meltzer who introduced us. We met at the mastermind that was at a golf course in, where was that? It was in Orange County area.
Arroyo, Trabuco.
Arroyo, yeah. And so he kept telling me, he said, so we've got Virgil Herring, and Virgil Herring is the people that you've coached and helped with. And I was like, cool, we're going to hear a really cool golf pro. But we heard something so much more. What I loved about what you were doing is utilizing golf as a method to get people to rethink how they approach life and business. And the analogies and the metaphors that come from the game of golf are endless. Now, warning, for those of you who do not play golf or understand golf, this will be a good time for you to do that. And I think, and so I'll just tell Virgil, I said, some of the people that we listen to understand golf, some don't, but even if you don't understand it, these lessons will make all the sense in the world because golf is just a sport. It's a game. Just like any discipline that you learn, the metaphors are applicable across the board. I want to get into this. And here's why I'm also excited about it. Because my background, everything that I do, behavioral neuroscience, I think you all know that, but I learned it from my mother who really, that came from liberating education, which was the foundation of accelerated learning. Now, accelerated learning really at the core is about learning, using brain research to understand how the brain learns faster. So that incorporates kinesthetic things. It incorporates sights and sounds and all the senses, body movement as you're learning. Like we used to teach people accounting by turning the whole entire room into a balance sheet, and a person would act as a debit, another one would act as a credit, and they'd move around the balance sheet so they could physically, kinesthetically understand the flow of it. You're doing that with golf. So tell me first, if you want to go back and tell me a little about your history, if you'd like, or how you got into teaching leadership and life through golf.
Well, one of the things I got interested in was like so many people that I was teaching were CEOs, and we do playing lessons, and maybe by the 3rd hole, they're like, dude, I almost feel like I'm in being a business consultant more than I am a golf lesson. I feel like I'm learning more about who I am as a person or who I am as a CEO or a CFO than I am on the golf course. And have you ever thought about doing like masterminds or, doing business coaching? And I'm like, no, but I'm all ears. So I got going on that with very good players who are CEOs. And all of a sudden we started to think like, we generally speaking, we stop playing games. Most people stop playing games or sports at age 18. And if we're lucky, 22 or 23, if we get a chance to do it in college. When we're learning life lessons while playing a sport, it's a lot funner to learn the difficulties of life while playing a game than it is to learn it actually in life. And golf, of if there's any, and I know many sports have parallels, but if there's any sport in the world that provides you the level of difficulty that when your very best effort, your very best preparation, your very best thoughts go awry, how similar that is in life when everything that you're doing has a process, you're thinking correctly, you're doing the best that you can do with everything in front of you, and it just turns into a mess. And golf allows us to experience adversity, triumph, and through multiple conditions. Life has its own conditions, but golf has rain, wind, super fast greens, super slow greens, high grass, water, out of bounds, everything. And they all parallel in life.
I was going to say what I love before you do it. I just love that you said we stopped playing games. So I want to come back to that, but keep going what you were saying. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I have that resonating. We stopped playing games. It's a crime.
It really is a crime. And so to me, my job is to, while we're experiencing the round of golf and I'm teaching you the analytics and the strategies and how to breathe and the visualization of the shots and how they all seem to go together with life, I'll start to ask questions that relate to their business and what are they really good at their job that is similar. And as soon as they start to talk about how successful they've been doing whatever it is that their job is, well, next thing you know, they start thinking better on the golf course. And when they start thinking better on the golf course, it becomes a funner way to watch how they handle a bad shot or missing a short putt or hitting a driver in the bunker or all the varieties that we have. But what ends up happening is who we see under duress, because I'm usually playing with them. I'm a pretty good player, so they wanting to beat me. So there's a little bit of competition. There's the pressure to compete, and then when they start to struggle or they start to lose, I start to see who they are in the boardroom when things aren't going well. And if I can find something that I could easily transition the conversation from golf to business or business to golf, it starts to get funner for the person. And it became a very contagious idea. And I started doing more and more of it. And it's turned into quite a business model for me. So I'm super excited about it.
I love that. Ralph Waldo Emerson had a great quote. He said, "Adversity doesn't build character; it reveals it." And what I'm hearing you say is that what a great way to reveal character in the adversities of a round of golf, because you can experience everything, every emotion, and then you can start over. You have the opportunity to start over at each hole. That's the beauty of it. Can you switch gears in life if things aren't going your way? Can you hold and maintain and perform under pressure? How do you navigate, improvise, adapt, overcome in moments where things are in front of you and obstacles are in front of you? Can you get your ego in check? Like for me, I tell people it's going to go 300 plus yards for sure. I just don't know exactly where, right? And it's one of those things. As I'm swinging, I go, okay, just relax, Renee. You don't have to kill the ball. And I'm going back, just see, this is so nice and relaxed, so nice and relaxed. Oh, see, Renee, this is perfect. And this little voice says, swing the freaking club, you blank. And then I just get after it and, end up slicing it. And so it's interesting and especially the value of having somebody in real time to help you build that self-awareness. That's just got to be eye-opening for people.
Yeah, I think there's a variety of things that you said there that are interesting. One is that the confusion between effort and speed, trying versus doing or being. Many times in our life we start trying and it gets clunky. We're really struggling with decision making. We're really struggling with communication because we're trying so hard. But when we just let it be and we just let things happen, more times than not, control or this illusion of control that the greatest golfers think that they have is also the illusion of control that the greatest CEOs and CFOs and owners have. And at the end of the day, learning how to control the controllables while also creating a game plan and execution of multiple adaptabilities. One of the things that made Tiger Woods so incredible is that if he drove the ball well, he was definitely going to win. But if he didn't drive it well, his iron play was so good that he could win by driving it poorly. And if he wasn't driving it well and he wasn't particularly hitting his irons well, his short game and his putting were second to none. So he had more than one way of beating you. And more than anything, he had it up here. He had it in his head that no matter what was going to happen, he could pull off the shot if he needed it right then and there. And one of the things that separated Tiger from the rest is his belief. Actually, what I call he knew that he could do it. And one of the things that I try to train people is to move from I hope I can do it to I believe I can do it until I know I will. And that's where, the repetitions of life and the repetitions of practicing your golf are mirroring, because when you start the game, play it, you hit some good shots, you're like, man, I really like this. I hope I can get good at it. So you go get instruction, you go work on your game. And now once you can do it right, you believe you can do it. And there are some people that can win in the believe mode. But what you really have to understand is you got to do it until you can't do it wrong. And when you've practiced it so refined and so precise that you can't do it wrong, you will.
And to me, you're outlining the difference between an amateur and a pro. And I ask my clients all the time and said, okay, so what's it like to watch a professional athlete train? Has anybody watched one? A couple of hands of people. I said, what's the difference? And look around, they always say intensity. And I go, all right, you watch a basketball player shoot free throws. Why are they sopping wet? Well, because they're running up and down the court 5 times, getting themselves to a point of exhaustion, and then having to calm down and hit that three free throw, and then running again, and then calming down. And for me, I was an amateur. I played college for a little bit. I was just relaxed in the court. Air conditioning was on, quiet. Just I could hit 10, 15, 20 in a row sometimes. And then a game comes, and all of a sudden, it's like it's a different chemistry when the game comes. And they all say, okay, so they know what a pro is like, the intensity level. Then I'll say, so do you consider yourselves a pro? They say, yeah. Great. When was the last time you trained like one? And that's when they get silent. And it's like, we not only stop playing games, we stop training like a pro when we get there. The reps, I mean, you're talking about reps, putting time in, at bats, practice. How many times do you practice for your budget meeting? Or do you just show up to the meeting? Or there's nobody on that golf course that just shows up. They've been putting time in. They walk the course, and I want to come back to that question too, is like, walking the course visually, mentally, feeling the land. That's a really good conversation I want to have. But like, are you showing up for your work? And if you're listening to this, forget golf for a minute. Are you showing up? Are you putting in the reps for the things that are important to you, for the times with your kids, with your family, for your podcast, or you just show up and wing it? Where's the pro level of training that you're in?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's what it takes to be great. But what is it like in the boardroom when things are kind of hectic? You're crunched for time, you got deadlines to meet. Do you lose your cool? Do you get a little snappy with your employees or your counterparts? Or do you stay calm? And at the end of the day, one of the things that I like to do when it comes to coaching golf is I like to have, when we're working on putting or chipping, I love to make them do 20 push-ups as fast as they can and then give them 30 seconds to hit the shot. And I tell people all the time, you want to figure out what it feels like to win a major golf tournament, major to you, not major to Tiger Woods, but major to you. Drop down and give me 20 push-ups as fast as you can. And you have 30 seconds to hit the putt. And that is exactly what is going through your arms and your hands when you set up over that 4-footer, because for whatever reason, you have all this electricity going through your body, all this energy going through your body, but you're not doing anything to produce it. It's inside of you. It's the chemistry of the anxiety, the excitement, the nerves, and really what I call the weight of dreams. You've worked your entire life for this moment, and it has a weight to it. Are you able to acknowledge the fact that this is the moment and then block the moment out because it's just a 4-foot putt or it's just a 10-yard chip shot? Can you block out the moment to just execute something that you've done 25,000 times? And therein lies the real joy of the game for me. The golf swing and the techniques of all parts of the game obviously are fun, but compared to preparing the mind of a champion to excel in the world of chasing dreams is what fascinates me and what drives me to be the best coach that I can be. And understanding and studying zone states and flow states and how to access them and how to create the environment, how to invite it. You can't just say, all right, I'm going to be in the zone, but you have to cultivate the environment in your body and your chemistry, your body language, how you stand, how you breathe. All of those things play a role. And it's funny, the first time somebody comes to see me about it and we start talking about breathing, they're like, I did not fly 8 hours to come see you to have you tell me how to breathe. And I'm like, well, then you have a long way to go to understand what it's going to take when you're sending up over a putt that you've been dreaming about making for 20 years. Very different. Talk is cheap in that category.
I always tell people, I said, if the moment I talk about breathing, mindfulness, meditation, imagery, and I get any sort of smart ass comment like, oh, here we go, or they roll their eyes or they make fun of it, or if it's a punchline, immediately I know they've never faced a game-winning shot. They've never faced 3,000 eyeballs that are expecting them to deliver value. They've never led a meeting where their people are depending on them to close that deal. It's their dead giveaway. You know, I was even watching with my son yesterday. We were watching LeBron play overseas, and there he was shooting a free throw. And I said, "Watch what he's going to do." And he goes, he took a breath. I'm like, "What do we always talk about? Take a deep breath." It's the secret weapon of the pro, and it's the punchline of the amateur. And so I love that. I want to kind of break down what I heard you say when you're saying, okay, you're making them do those push-ups, and you're changing the chemistry. When we do Amplify, we put people through a really intensive process, and we'll all start cutting them off, moving them around, turning cameras on, just to throw them off as they're about to talk, starting them over. Oh, you know what? Sorry, can you start over? I didn't like that. You said 4 ums. Keep going. In fact, why don't you? And they're just like thrown off because that's the revealing moment of who they really are. The reason we do that is that there's 2 types of learning, things that we learn, things that are biologically primary and things that are biologically secondary. So primary are things that we need to survive. One is to recognize a facial expression as friendly or dangerous. The ability for self-defense could be one. Emotional regulation in a certain situation. Those are primary things. Secondary would be things like, you know, algebra, reading and writing, reading a P&L statement, doing taxes, history. Those are things that are taught through axioms, theories, principles, and formulas with a guide. So it's basically done in school and a teacher. And the secondary methodology is the predominant methodology for learning everything. So even things that are biologically primary, we put them through a secondary methodology. So it's like saying, I'm going to give you this brochure and this book to read on how to box, and then I'm going to test you at the end of it. And there's the theories and the measurements and everything in there. It's just to the T. And you pass the test. Are you ready to box somebody? No way in the world, because they throw the first jab and you flinch, and then they throw a cross because your eyes were closed from flinching, and they knock you out. Well, that's a primitive response to a hand in your face. You can't intellectualize that moment. It is reactionary. So the only way to learn boxing is to be in the ring boxing. If you're going to be going to war, I got to teach you how to shoot a gun under warlike conditions so that when you're in warlike conditions and people are shooting at you, it's not your first time. Speaking, it's the same way. Golf, you got to be able to, like, when you start making them do push-ups, you're getting them into that primary state, which means you're adding stress. And stress becomes an important teacher because it doesn't matter the skill you have as a leader, as a salesperson. If you can't do it under massive amounts of stress, it's a useless skill because anybody can do it. Anybody can lead when times are good. Anybody can sell when customers are already sold. What about when they hate you and they don't want to talk to you? What do you do when times are not good? When people aren't buying? Who are you in those moments? I love that. And so let's talk about like this concept of, you know, golfers that arrive early, days before, where they will walk the course physically with no clubs, and then they'll walk through it in their minds. They picture every shot. almost like the mountain climber Harm. I forget his name. The movie was Free Solo, and he did El Cap with no ropes, but he could literally picture every single foot placement and finger placement, and it's a 3 hour ascent to that top. Do golfers do that? Walk the courses? What is the so does that pregame routine stuff?
Well, at the professional level, the caddy is walking the golf course, and the professional will not walk it without playing. But the golfer is going to be experiencing a couple of things. One is they have the desired outcome. I want my drive to finish in the left center of the fairway to give me the best angle at the flag. I want to be able to leave the ball below the hole so I'm putting uphill. But then there's the secondary pieces. Like, they have to expect that it's not going to go perfect. So if they can not only visualize the ideal round, the ideal shots, but to also understand, you know what, tendency wise, if I miss my drive, I'll miss it left. So on this hole, I can't miss it left. So I'm going to strategize a more right aim so that I buy myself some insurance just in case it's not perfect. And then where is below the hole around the green? So if I miss the fairway and I have to lay up short because I can't get to the green, where am I below the hole? So gravity's on my team. I want to have gravity on my team, not be chipping down the hill.
So here's a important point. I want, if you're listening to this, what you're telling me is it's not their first time seeing the hole when they approach it. They already have a game plan before they get there. I can't tell you how many speakers and people I work with that, I tell them, I said, go to the place early. Stop showing up last minute. Walk the stage. Understand where the creeks are, where there's dead space. Then ask, can you walk the audience without the microphone feedback? If you walk over here, what's going to happen? And you have the people that walk in front of my speakers, and it makes that super loud noise, and it throws a whole event, just that piercing noise in people's ears, and they got to like figure it out, and it throws everybody off. Like, they should know all of those parts ahead of time. And so, like, I'll walk the stage, I walk the audience, I look at different angles, what they can see, what parts of the stage, where people are sitting. I'm looking at, and I'll say, can I walk the audience? And I'm asking, if I walk the audience, how about your lighting? Can you, oh, yep, we'll take care of, oh man, we didn't think about that. Or they'll say, between these two chairs, you can walk. Outside these two chairs, you'll get feedback. So it's no different in life. What about your board meeting? Are you setting up the board meeting or your presentation to be as effective as possible? Where are people sitting instead of just letting people choose by chance? If you need to be sitting next to strategic people, how about put name tents? There's seat assignments to ensure that you got the best setup possible. And so I'm hearing that, one, the caddy is physically walking there. You have two people strategizing each shot. So the role of the caddy isn't just to carry the bag. They're a strategist. Is that true?
Absolutely. And I think that one of the most important things to understand for everybody out there, not just in golf, but in life, is the visualization. If you have visualized yourself vividly succeeding, in the brain, it registers exactly the same as if you'd done it. So the most powerful shot in golf is not calling your shot, it's recalling your shot. And to be able to strategize in a way that you have prepared yourself visually and mentally so that there is nothing that's going to shock you. All you have to do is recall it. And recall is way more powerful than calling.
Yeah, because I remember as a kid hearing those studies, the three groups that wanted to learn how to shoot a basketball. One group did no practice for a week. Another group shot free throws for a week, and another group didn't shoot free throws, but they visualized shooting free throws for the week. And obviously, what they found that there was no improvement on the ones that didn't practice. The ones that practiced physically shooting free throws had an X% improvement, and those that didn't shoot free throws but visualized had very similar to the X improvement. And it's also the same in storytelling, which is really interesting. And I'm kind of putting these pieces together. So visualization is, in essence, creating a movie in your head, which is a narrative. Okay, that makes sense. But we use narratives to construct reality. Okay, that makes sense. Well, what is it so powerful about story? Why do we cry during movies when we know they're actors? Like, what is it? Well, it's because we believe that we are the people in the movie. Our brains actually believe that. And so we feel the loss and the gain and the frustration and the betrayals and all the ups and downs of a movie. as if it's us. And so we have this physiological response to those movies, which would then make total sense to what you just said, which is if we go through and create the movie in our head about the desired outcome, what we're going to do, and the strokes and the practice and the detail of, smelling the grass and hearing the cleats dig into the gravel, the sound of the putter hitting the club, or the ball hitting the club, whatever it is. And then all of a sudden you're there. You're not inventing this. It's not new. You've seen this movie before. Let's just recall that movie, and then you're more likelihood to live into it. I mean, that's such a cool way of thinking about it. Recall.
Yeah, and another thing it's fascinating about the mind. Stephen Kotler, who is probably now the father of flow, now that Csikszentmihalyi has passed away, I'm a big Stephen Kotler fan, and the studies show that choking is when you are currently in an endeavor that is more than 20% past your capabilities. But when you're in that place where you're a little bit ahead of where you usually are, that is the secret of finding yourself in flow state or in the zone state, where the environment has you heightened because it's a little bit past your comfort zone, but not too far past your comfort zone.
That's interesting. Expand on that. So you're saying that flow, I used to describe flow as the intersection of discipline and surrender. Discipline to do the work, and then when it comes time to perform, to actually have the trust in the work that you did, so you surrender in this flow. But then there's the discipline creates a broader comfort zone, so you're expanding it through the discipline of hard work, practice, visualization, everything. And then game time pushes you just beyond it. And it's in that moment you saying that when you're just beyond it, you're in a flow.
Yeah, because what ends up happening is this: when you find yourself in an environment that's a little bit past your best, it throws you into a very critical term, what I call immersive presence. You have to be alive. You have to be exactly where your feet are, or you're going to get run over. And what makes golf so challenging is it's not dangerous. Surfers have no problem getting in flow, because if they're not, they could die. Mountain bikers, if they aren't in flow, they could die. And that trips you. But golf has only a couple of flow tricks. One is the environment. Wow, you're playing Augusta National. You never thought you'd play where the Masters is played. It's the Taj Mahal, and that throws you in it. Or if you're in competition and you find yourself in a situation, maybe the wind's blowing 25 miles per hour and you have never played in that before, but you can imagine what is required, that throws you into immersive presence, and it slows everything down and time disappears. And to me, that's where flow state is when you can't tell the difference between, was that 1 minute or 1 hour? And like that, if you're not immersively present, you cannot find flow or zone state. And that is one of the hallmarks of my coaching, is immersive presence.
I'm loving this, because that is I think, and I have these moments where all the things that I know about the brain and brain research and thoughts and ideas and philosophy, and then there's kind of summarized, and they kind of all comes together. This is one of those moments for me, because so if we think about, and I'm saying this out loud to tell me if you agree to this. I used to draw this circle right here of, and by the way, comfort zone is such a cliched word, and I always tell people that the answers to life are found in cliches. So don't build a callus to the word comfort zone. Let's actually see, how does it apply to us. So I used to draw the circle. Here's a comfort zone. And through hard work and discipline, putting yourself to the rigor, you can increase that comfort zone to be much bigger, right? Some people are much more comfortable near the edge of a cliff than I am. I'm not. 10 feet is too close to the edge of a cliff for me. Some people can stand there, look over, and it's not that big of a deal. I cannot. So there's an example of a measurable comfort zone, right? Within 10 feet, not comfortable. If we were to say this outer circle would be the performance pressure zone. And if I haven't done any work, then the outer zone doesn't shift, but the inner zone shift. And so the distance between that, if I haven't done any work to build my comfort zone, then I get in game. There's such a delta between my comfort zone and the performance zone. But through the discipline and hard work, you're saying, and through the push-ups and all the crazy stuff, you're pushing that comfort zone out so far as close to the performance zone, but not so far, so that you're just before it. So that now when time comes, it pushes you just outside of it, so that you have to have that immersive presence to go, oh man, I don't have a moment to think about anything else other than what's happening right now.
That's
That is so cool. I love that. And because then now what that tells me, we have to understand the baseline of the performance zone reality, the stresses, what's on the line, which is also why when not much is on the line, people don't perform all that well. Right. And so what's on the line here? And where's the level of your preparedness? Because if your comfort zone is bigger than the performance zone, you get complacent.
yep.
Yeah, because that's I've had that where I'm like, it's not that big of a thing. I don't really work that hard at it. And I got complacent and I end up bombing on something that I should have killed.
Yeah, I can imagine that could happen in a speaking world where you've given this particular talk 12 times, and next thing you know, there's a disturbance in the crowd, or the lighting goes off or the audio goes off, and it just throws you off, and now all of a sudden you are so unprepared for that moment that you lose your train of thought, you can't keep track of where you are, and you feel like, how did I get here? And once again, the lack of preparedness, like you don't rise to the occasion, you fall to the lowest level of your training. And that's a military term, but I mean, it's once again another cliche that is eerily tells the story of life.
So then we go, okay, and so it's just based on that what you said. We don't rise to the training, we don't rise to the occasion, we fall to the level of our training. So I better make my training way harder than performance. And so when I fall, I'm not falling that far. And my training is carrying me through. I mean, I think this is such a cool thing. I hope people are getting this because you have to look at that same question of what's it like to watch a pro train intensity create? Do you consider yourself a pro? Yes. When was the last time you trained like one? I think that's what makes even like when people ask about Amplify, why it sort of has this allure to it is because of the level of intensity that we approach it. And the same is true with what I'm hearing you're doing. And by the way, I cannot wait to play golf with you because I want to go through this and I want to see what's revealed about me when I'm on the golf course. But the intensity by which you prepare for something is that decision point, the controllable to get you to that performance state that you want. Like, and now let's not talk golf for a minute. Let's dig that deeper. So yes, we said it applies to speaking. What other areas have you seen your students, clients apply that idea in?
Many times it's either acquisitions, or I teach a lot of people in the real estate game, and they're trying to figure out where the best plots of land are, et cetera, right? Well, when they get into that moment, now they got a lot of things they're thinking about: money, space, time, and they have to make these decisions in relative speed. No, not that dissimilar to having to hit a shot in a golf tournament. You can't stand there forever. You got to take the information as quickly as you can and go with it. But here's the key. I got this from John Wooden. John Wooden used to make his practices so hard that the guys could not wait to play the game because the game was so easy. Well, that's one of the first things I ask the people as they're trying to shift the conversation from golf to business is, you know, it sounds to me maybe that you're more prepared for your golf than you are for your job, because you're practicing your golf 3 or 4 times a week, 3 hours a day, and playing 18 holes twice a week, but you're not out studying your craft at that level. And so you're coming to me like, you just lost this one deal, or, you ran into some zoning issues with this gigantic development that you wanted to do, and now it's cost you X millions of dollars. Well, I'm like, well, did you do all of your due diligence? Did you fine tooth comb everything? Because you're fine tooth combing your golf, but that would be almost like you didn't bring your rain gloves or your umbrella, knowing that there's a chance that it could rain. All of those things play a role in it. And that's just one of my favorite examples, because it happens so frequently because of how many people in the real estate game that I coach, is that I think people, once they start doing something for so long, they just take it for granted that they got it. And there's a lot of moving parts to life. And if you just fall asleep one time, it can be so devastating, because a lot of successful people are used to being successful. But when they get into that game where 3 or 4 different big companies are trying to put their money on the same plot of land. The person who's the most prepared, the person who's exercised the brain muscles for every possible encounter of difficulty, generally speaking, win that game. And most of the time, people are just not preparing, because I think this is why I think it's so important going back to the games and playing games. It's not nearly as fun preparing to read 500 pages of zoning legalities over a plot of land in a certain town. But it sure does seem like fun to get ready to play in 25-mile-per-hour wind and abandoned dunes, right? So the fun of games teaches us the disciplines of our life's endeavor that allows us to do all the great things in our life. Because obviously we have to work to make money, to make a living, so that we can provide whatever it is that our goals are. But it doesn't sound nearly as much fun reading 500 pages of zoning as it does to prepare for a guy's trip to Bandon Dunes or Pebble Beach or wherever you want to call it. But it's those disciplines that we learn through games that teach us how important it is to prepare like that in everything that we do that matters to us, because that's how we get across the finish line.
Well, you heard it there, folks. I mean, this is such a great analogy of business and life, and looking and understanding how you approach the game, how you approach adversity, how you approach those things is a lot of times very revealing to how you approach that in the work life and in personal life. Virgil, I can't tell you how much I enjoyed this conversation. And how do people get a hold of you?
The two best ways, obviously, is by my phone. Like I respond instantly to text messaging and phone calls. I'm emphatic about you're important to me. So the first minute that I'm available, you're getting a call from me, and my number is 615-579-5190. And I'm shocked, but I guess not. Instagram has turned into such a massive tool because the technology that's available, I can teach people in Singapore, Australia, anywhere. And so my Instagram handle is Virgil, VIRGIL .Herring, like the fish, HERRING. There you can find all my content. You can see my speaking stuff. You can see how I teach golf, how I handle all types of public speaking as it pertains to whether I'm encouraging junior golfers, speaking to professionals in business, or just helping you understand how am I going to hit that pretty little draw. All of that is found on my Instagram page, so check it out there.
I love it. Virgil, it's an absolute pleasure. I'll make sure I put all that stuff in the show notes as well. Thank you for the time. Thank you for the innovation on taking these lessons from this beautiful game of golf into life and business, and making it so enjoyable. I appreciate your humility and the way you do that. You're a pro in what you do, but you still have the thirst of a student, which is such a rare combination, which is also what makes you such a fantastic coach. My friend, thank you so much for joining us here. I'll leave you with one final thought.
I always just say this. Adaptability is so critical in life. And one of my favorite lines comes from the great American philosopher, Mike Tyson. Everybody's got a game plan until Mike Tyson punches you in the face. And in the world we live in, the struggles that you're facing can sometimes feel like Mike Tyson 1993. Train yourself to be adaptable and have as many skill sets available in your craft as possible. And that is what is going to make you successful. Adaptability is one of the most critical features to have. And it's one of my favorite ways to explain the story, because Mike Tyson told us well.
I love it. I love that quote. My friend, thank you so much. Folks, if you enjoyed this, please like, comment, share all of the wonderful things. And if this is, you're listening to this prior to AMPCON on August 16th, 2024, please get your tickets. We'd love to see you there. Obviously, we have our mentorship program and all those things, but please share this stuff. This is good information. We do this podcast so we can help people. You are the eyes and ears to the world, the ability to share this stuff and make an impact. So if you liked it, please comment and subscribe. Appreciate you all listening in. Thanks again, Virgil, for joining us here today, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you for sharing this time with us. If the experience resonated with you, follow us on Apple and Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or AmplifyMyLife.com. Share it with anyone else who's ready to amplify their lives. And remember to let our hearts speak in sequence. For more from René Rodriguez, visit meetrene.com.